My name is Victoria Reid, and I was 33 years old when my marriage officially ended. The divorce hearing ended at exactly 11:14 that morning, and I remember the time because I couldn't stop staring at the courtroom clock. When the judge signed the final order, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. After 7 years of marriage to Ethan Caldwell, I was finally free. I thought that was the hardest part of my day. I was wrong. Before heading home, I decided to stop by the house one last time to collect a few boxes that belonged to my late father. They had been sitting in the attic for years, filled with family photos, handwritten letters, and the wooden watch box he had built with his own hands. They were the last pieces of him I still had, and losing them would have felt like losing him all over again. They were the only things I wanted to take with me. As I parked in the driveway, the front door flew open before I could reach it. My mother-in-law, Diane Caldwell, stood on the porch with her arms folded tightly across her chest. The look on her face told me she had no intention of letting me inside. "You've got some nerve coming back here," she said coldly. "I'm only here for my father's belongings," I replied. "I'll be gone in 10 minutes. She stepped directly into my path. "No, you won't." Then, without caring who heard her, she pointed toward the street and screamed, "Get out of my house! You don't belong here anymore. Everything in this house stopped being yours the moment the judge signed those papers." The neighborhood suddenly felt silent. A man across the street stopped washing his car. A woman walking her dog slowed down to watch. Everyone was waiting to see if I would break the way I always had. 7 years ago, I would have apologized, even when I had done nothing wrong. This time I simply smiled. For the first time in 7 years, I wasn't the one walking into a trap. The smile caught Diane completely off guard. "What are you smiling at?" she demanded. I glanced at my phone. It was almost noon. I had been waiting for noon since the judge walked out of that courtroom. Everything depended on what happened next. "I was just wondering," I said calmly, "if Ethan has checked his email yet." She frowned. "What does that mean?" Before I could answer, my phone began to ring. The screen lit up with Ethan's name. I answered the call, looked Diane straight in the eyes, and listened as my ex-husband's voice shook with panic. "Victoria, what the hell did you do? Victoria, what the hell did you do?" Ethan's voice shook so badly that for a moment I barely recognized it. The confidence he had carried into the divorce hearing that morning was completely gone. "I haven't done anything you didn't bring on yourself," I replied calmly. Behind me, Diane kept trying to listen, her smug expression fading into confusion. "What is he talking about?" she demanded. I held up one finger, silently asking her to wait. "Ethan," I said, "did you finally read the email from the board?" A long, painful silence followed. When he finally spoke again, the anger in his voice had been replaced by pure panic. They voted me out. They voted after reviewing 18 months of declining performance." I corrected him. "Every board member reached that decision independently." "You convinced them," he snapped. "No," I answered. "Your numbers did." I didn't have to say a word. Diane grabbed my arm so suddenly that her nails dug into my sleeve. "Give me that phone," she demanded. I calmly stepped back, refusing to let her touch me. "You've spent years believing I was just your son's wife," I said. "You never cared to ask what I actually did at the company." She stared at me, speechless. "I wasn't hired because of Ethan," I continued. "I built the company's operations division years before I married him. I increased profits, streamlined every major department, and earned the trust of the investors. When your husband retired from the board, they asked me to take his seat because they believed in my leadership, not because I married into your family." Diane's face slowly drained of color. "No," she whispered. "You're lying." "I wish I were." On the phone, Ethan let out a shaky breath. "The board has already announced an interim CEO," he said quietly, sounding defeated. Diane leaned even closer. "Who is it?" she whispered, almost afraid to hear the answer. I looked directly into her eyes. They asked me to take over, effective immediately. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. The same woman who had ordered me out of the house just moments earlier now looked at me as though she had never known who I really was. Then my phone buzzed again. It was a message from the company's legal department. The final ownership documents had just been completed. A slow smile spread across my face as I read the first line. I locked my phone, slipped it into my pocket, and looked back at Diane. "There's one more thing you and Ethan don't know yet," I said quietly. I paused just long enough to watch the fear grow in their eyes. And once you hear it, losing the CEO position will be the least of your problems. Diane stared at me, desperately searching my face for any sign that I was bluffing. What do you mean this house isn't our biggest problem? She asked, her voice trembling. Before I could answer, a black sedan slowly pulled into the driveway. It stopped behind my car and 2 people stepped out. I recognized them immediately. Mark Reynolds, the company's chief legal officer, and Rebecca Collins, the chair of the board. Neither of them looked surprised to see me. Instead, they walked toward the porch with calm, professional expressions. Ms. Brooks, Mark said politely. Sorry to keep you waiting. Diane frowned. Why are company lawyers at my house? She demanded. Mark looked at her respectfully before replying. We're here to deliver official board documents. She let out a nervous laugh. This is ridiculous. My son is the CEO. He doesn't need documents from his own company. Rebecca finally spoke. He was the CEO. The words hit like a thunderclap. Diane's smile vanished. Mark opened the leather folder and handed several papers to her. At 11:30 this morning, he said, the board of directors voted unanimously to remove Ethan Caldwell as chief executive officer, effective immediately. No, Diane whispered, shaking her head. That's impossible. Rebecca remained calm. The decision followed an independent review of the company's financial, performance, and executive leadership. Every board member voted in favor. Diane slowly turned toward me. You planned this. I met her eyes. I warned Ethan for nearly 2 years. Every report, every recommendation, every meeting. He ignored them all. At that exact moment, another car screeched into the driveway. Ethan jumped out before the engine had fully stopped. What is happening? He shouted. Mark silently handed him the official documents. Ethan scanned the pages, and with every line his confidence faded. His hands began to shake. They actually removed me. For the first time since our marriage began. He looked at me with something I had never seen before. Respect. You knew this was coming, he said quietly. I knew accountability was coming, I replied. The board made its own decision. They simply chose the future of the company over family loyalty. A heavy silence settled over the driveway. Then Mark closed the folder and looked at both of them. There is one final document, he said. It concerns the ownership of this property. Diane's face turned completely white. What do you mean? Mark looked at me and nodded. I took a slow breath before speaking. Because after today, this house doesn't belong to the Caldwell family anymore. Diane's mouth fell open. What did you just say? The color drained from Ethan's face as he looked from me to Mark Reynolds. The house, he whispered. What about the house? Mark opened the folder one last time. Under the divorce settlement, he said, the property was ordered to be sold, with the proceeds divided according to the court's ruling. Both parties signed the required documents earlier today, and this afternoon the sale officially closed. Diane grabbed the porch railing to steady herself. No, she whispered. This is our family home. We've lived here for generations. Mark gave her a sympathetic nod. I understand. But legally, the house now belongs to someone else. Silence settled over the driveway. For the first time since I'd known Diane Caldwell, she had nothing to say. No insults, no accusations, no demands. She simply stared at the front door as if she had already become a stranger in the place she had spent years trying to control. Ethan slowly looked at me. His voice was barely above a whisper. Why didn't you tell me? I met his eyes. Because for years, you never listened. His shoulders dropped. I watched every memory wash across his face, every board meeting where he dismissed my ideas, every family dinner where he stayed silent while his mother humiliated me, every promise he made, every promise he broke. Tears filled his eyes. I should have stood up for you, he admitted. I should have believed in you. You should have, I replied softly. There was no anger left inside me. No satisfaction, only the quiet truth neither of us could change. Just then, a moving truck turned onto the street and stopped in front of the house. A luxury SUV pulled in behind it. A middle-aged couple stepped out. Smiling as they admired the home they had dreamed of owning, the husband walked over politely. Excuse me, he said. We're the new owners. The realtor told us it would be all right to stop by this afternoon. Diane looked at them as though she couldn't understand the words. The new owners? His wife smiled warmly. We've been searching for the right home for months. We can't wait to start making new memories here." Without another word, I picked up the small box containing my father's belongings, the only things I'd ever come back for. As I reached my car, I turned around one final time. "Diane." She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "I never wanted your house." I paused. I only ever wanted to be treated with respect. Neither she nor Ethan could find a single word to answer. As I drove away, I didn't feel happy because someone else had lost. I felt free because I had finally stopped allowing people who never valued me to decide what I was worth. 1 week later, the board unanimously confirmed me as the company's permanent CEO. My first decision wasn't to erase Ethan's legacy. It was to rebuild the trust the company had lost and create a workplace where respect mattered more than titles, family names, or connections. Because success means very little if you achieve it by making others feel small. Sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't watching someone fall. It's rising so high that you no longer need to look back. If you've ever been underestimated, betrayed, or made to feel like you weren't enough, remember this. Your greatest victory isn't proving your critics wrong. It's building a life that proves to yourself you were enough all along. And if this story stayed with you, subscribe for more unforgettable stories of justice, resilience, and well-earned karma.